She got on so well with military people because she was so ballsy.
Margaret never made anything about being a female. She just did it. Look at me, here's the camera. This is what I do.
Well, I must say, I watched Never Look Away last night, and it was just such a beautiful film from start to finish. I love...
Oh my God, thank you. Thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I love, by the way, the mix of punk rock aesthetic and really moving drama that you have in it. And so I'd love to hear, when you first learned about Margaret and what inspired her, or what about her inspired you to want to make a documentary about her?
Oh, I just love badass bitches, and also that there's an element of redemption that it's a little bit of a sort of a biblical story, really. The sinner who faces catastrophe and becomes so much greater than they ever were before. So so it's a pretty classic kind of tale. But everything I learned about Margaret must have been when I, like everyone in New Zealand, was riveted to the CNN report that one of our own camera people, a New Zealander, was shot by a sniper in Sarajevo in 1992. So I got this email from Joe Duran, who's in the film, and I rashly promised that I would find the money and I would get the film made, and immediately castigated myself for having the temerity to promise such things. So I've never done it before. I just don't know what gave me the chutzpah to say that. But here we are.
Here we are, and that I love that tenacity because it turned into such a fantastic film. And and much like with narrative features, I mean, documentaries, the tone is really very much on the director as well as whoever sort of helped outline what it could be. And like I mentioned before, I love the sort of punk rock feel to it, but it is also a very moving film, as you mentioned, the redemption story. How did you land on balancing the tones, both in the development as well as during the editing?
Well, the thing with docos, it's so much harder than working with a script because you don't know what the story even is before you've collected all the interviews. You don't know what direction you're going to go. You don't know where you're going to get appropriate pictures for. So you have to fill in the holes with, we had a dearth of images because camera people are seldom in front of the camera. And it was full of surprises. Plus, in archive at CNN, they were very willing to help us, but camera people didn't get credited. There was no way to find out what she filmed. And most of the footage, the B-roll, was all destroyed because it was shot on B-roll out in the, on beta tapes, out in the field. And only the edited packages were sent back by satellite to Atlanta. Everything else was lost. So there is other people's work in this in all likelihood, but I tried to do due diligence, make it line up with her passports and her press passes, etc. And anecdotally, I knew she was at certain conflicts, but anyway, it's bloody hard. So we had to create images. We had to create the diorama scenes, huge, large-scale diorama by Weta in New Zealand, because obviously there's no camera rolling when Margaret gets her face shot off. So we had to be inventive. Use some buto dancing, animate her own hospital notes. So those are all the hospital notes she wrote when she was bandaged up, having lost her jaw, are actual, and we very faithfully rendered them into the film.
I love the way you did that because it really did sort of land even heavier than just, a screenshot of those notes. So I love that thought process. And speaking of, I also love the people that you speak with for this film. And I mean, that's another thing with documentaries is I always love hearing about how the director went about building that trust with the subjects, especially something like this where they really, these people are digging up a lot of personal demons for themselves.
Yeah, you're right. There's quite a bit of stewardship, but I love people, and plenty of people said no, by the way, for whatever reason. But the ones I wanted were the most human, the ones that could reach through the screen and be warm and credible, even if their stories were at odds with other people, like the lovers. Their stories are, they don't jive. They're a little in conflict. So that's the lean-in moment where you go, wait a minute. He said that, but that doesn't match up with this guy. Who do I believe? So the audience gets to make up their mind who's a reliable narrator. So, I just got really lucky and, made sweet, sweet love to as many people as I could to get them to come on board, and tried to respect them in the editing, not make, fools or use them unkindly or unfairly. I tried to, in this case, make it very fair. Maybe if they were wicked despots, I would let them hang themselves, but I didn't have to. That wasn't the nature of this beast.
It definitely felt like everybody got their own time to shine in this piece, and I love the way that you went about doing that.
Thanks.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what would you say then was one of the more surprising things that you maybe learned about her along this journey, since this is something where you are having to go into areas of her life you may not have already known?
Oh my God, there's so much stuff that I couldn't put in the film. She's a little bit of a criminal. But it just didn't fit because it was her time in New Zealand. There was really fascinating stuff. The hardest thing for me with all the accounts I was getting were the anecdotes were in conflict with one another, and I couldn't figure out. She's not like anybody I'd ever met before. It's like people say she like you. She's not at all like me. I don't feel that way at all. I couldn't figure out what holds these elements together, and then I realized through meeting the family that at bottom, what tied all of these things together was this utterly pitiless, emotionally neglectful childhood. And in a way, I think that might have become her superpower that enabled her to survive a catastrophic event like a sniper's bullet to the face, which would have killed many a young soldier, according to the doctors.
So in talking about her family, then, that was something I found really interesting about the film is how they come into the picture sort of late in the game, so to speak. And I'd love to hear the thought process about when to introduce them in this storyline and how much you wanted to include them versus keep the focus elsewhere.
Well, I guess that's, if you're going to say the female gaze in any element of this, that is the biggest component, because I had a lot of resistance to my team going, you don't need it, leave this unknown. And I said, if you don't put in the family, A, I'll take my name off it. B, every woman in the audience will walk out. The family's crucial. And we underuse them just enough to keep you kind of guessing. We don't want to tell everything all the time. It's not that satisfying. There was no sexual abuse. You want to jump to these things. Why was she the way she was? Those horrifying drawings that Jeff gifted to me, bless him. Margaret's own drawings are ghastly of her childhood. But it was emotionally neglectful. So I found that out only 2/3 of the way through editing, did I figure out. So that's where it comes 2/3 of the way through the story. It's just kind of in line with the order that I understood her. And it's kind of satisfying because you start with Margaret as a mystery woman, shows up in Texas, can remember nothing about her past. And then you learn, she didn't want to. And she hung out with these 17-year-olds, who just accepted on its face that she couldn't remember. They just thought that was kind of cool and weird. But she was in hiding from her own history. Yeah. Hated her dad.
Well, again, I think the way you quote unquote underuse it, I think is perfect, because like you say, it really does. It gives us a reason or a connection to how she was the way she was without sort of going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. And the way that the sister talks about, I used to beat it, the whack us on the hand with a buckle or wrap around. She's kind of laughing and it's painful because you're going, in fact, when I was interviewing, I said, you do know that that's not normal, right? And they went, oh, really? And I said, I just wish you kids had been loved more. And you could see that she had never thought of that. She had never wished for different than they had. They couldn't have imagined being more loved. But through the talking to them, she was like, I wish that we had been cuddled. Things would have been so much different. Because that kind of neglect has continued on to this day intergenerationally. I've met the nieces and nephews, and it's just awful.
Yes, I can only imagine, and I'm glad you did ask her though that because I remember watching that scene and going, I wonder if Lucy asked her afterwards if she recognized that may not be the most normal sense of punishment for.
None of them ever. Yeah, their lack of curiosity and insight into their own state was amazing to me. Being an actor, that's why we spend years at drama school, investigating our navels, kind of thing. But it was really instructive about who Margaret was, because they're all like her, and yet none of them are like anything like anybody else I've ever met. It's just, terrible.
Really terrible, but I hope that when this comes out, this story really helps inspire other people to start telling similar stories. And I love that as this has been making the festival run, it's already getting phenomenal reviews. How does it feel for you seeing some of the reactions so far to the film?
I'm so nervous. For starters, I never anticipated this in my life. I didn't know that my life would take this hard sort of left turn, 180 degrees in the other direction, actually, and make me want to get direct. It's never been something I wanted to do. Now it's all I want to do. And the reviews, I'm so nervous that somebody's going to put a stinker in there and we're going to sink to the bottom of Rotten Tomatoes. Where White Chicks is, I just watched White Chicks the other night. It's got like 15 on the Rotten Tomatoes. Such a classic. Really a terrible movie, but such a classic. So though I know it's not the worst thing, we'd love to be certified fresh, and then I can join my husband. He's got one for Evil Dead Rise, and I don't know. I can't believe people love it. I'm so grateful. I just set out to make a movie that would please me and the Film Commission, my New Zealanders. I made a film for New Zealanders by a New Zealander about a New Zealander, and the fact that the world grabbed it is beyond my wildest imagination. So thanks. And thank you for taking the time to watch it last night.
Absolutely. And I love that it feels so universal, even if it is, like you say, for your home of New Zealand. You've clearly brought your wealth of experience in the industry to make something incredible.
Oh, thanks.
So now that you've got the directing bug, what do you think you want to direct next? Do you want to direct a narrative? Do you want to direct a documentary? What are you feeling?
No, I'm feeling, I found this book, and I went to the author who lived in Milan, said, dude, I want to buy your trilogy. He said, the only rights I ever sold were in 1990 to this really famous screenwriter back in the day who wrote a screenplay and then promptly died. Anyway, so I went to battle and I went and made Sweet Sweet Love to the family and got the rights to the script, and they allowed me to take it back to the more like the book's very perverse, very funny romp, and they allowed me to do that with a couple of minor changes, and I'm so happy. So now I'm trying to attach a really terrific English actor and then go to market. So I hope I have an exciting announcement about that eventually. I want to bring all the lessons I learned from this doco, like sound design and music and editing, to what I know so well, which is directing actors.
Well, I hope that we get that announcement soon, because that sounds like a very exciting project, and I know you're just going to crush it. I think I'm almost out of time, so my very final question for you is, you mentioned Robert and Evil Dead. I'm a huge fan of that franchise as a whole. I miss Ruby. I miss the whole Ash versus Evil Dead crew. I know Ruby. Bruce has been talking about an animated show for many years now. I'm curious if you have heard any updates on that front, or if you would be interested in coming back if Ruby were involved in the animated revival.
Oh my God, Ruby. It's like, honestly, who is Ruby became a joke on set, because Bruce and I go, what the hell am I doing here? I'm like, did you make this role just to keep me in the country? What the hell is Ruby? But I love hanging out with Bruce and Dana and Ray. That, his family, Bruce's family. So what I can tell you is that there will be a couple more Evil Dead movies. There was a major sticking point in the legal paperwork that had to be worked through, but looks like that's ironing itself out, and I think we can expect a couple more movies in the next couple of years.
Well, that's what I love to hear because I mean, I love the way I got Rise right there. I love the way Rise really sort of took the franchise.
It was great, wasn't it?
It was so good. It took it in a great new direction, and I can't wait to see what they do with the new, especially the new people they got. I've loved their work as well, so I'm really excited. But in the meantime, I truly, genuinely look forward to getting Never Look Away out there. I mean, it is such a beautiful film,
thanks.
and I think so many people need to watch it. So, Lucy, thank you so much for taking the time. Truly.
Thanks, Grant. My pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a great rest of your week.
Cheerio. You too. Bye.
Even with her injuries, she was driven by some other fuel source than most people are.
She said, I am going back, and nobody is going to stand in my way.